We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joy, I got joy. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who shares.
I'm joined here by my co-host and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
How are you doing today?
Welcome to another day of Joy in My House.
I'm so glad. I didn't see you today at church, but you said you were there.
I was there at church today.
Okay, all right.
I had to bail a little bit early. I'm a little banged up. My knee is aching. I was doing some groundwork with the...
When you talk about groundwork, what is that? What do you do with your fighters?
When you slam them on the floor and you start pounding their face in.
So you're kind of like the sparring partner for boxing.
A little bit. You teach technique.
Okay.
And just ended up hitting my knee. And
you did that about 3 or 4 months ago. Somebody else fell on you.
Yeah, somebody else.
You better get Sebastian buffed up and get
that
him
is
in there,
correct.
son,
my son
Sebastian.
So my son is living with me now. So now he's training. He has his black belt with me, but now he's doing MMA. So now he's getting tagged in the face a little bit.
Oh, I don't want
just
that.
as long as I don't break his nose.
No, don't put him in the cage, please. Please don't put him.
I would
in the
like
cage.
one pro fight before the end of summer for him.
Really?
Yeah,
you know what?
one.
I have finally Netflix. I was watching the documentary about champs.
Okay.
It was Holyfield and Tyson and another gentleman. It's kind of rough. That's a rough business.
But I believe it's any business at a high level. It's going to be that intense, that loneliness. Well,
you got to have good support around you.
Yes. You have to have a good team.
Have a good team. Well, okay. Well, you take care of you.
I will. I want to send a shout out to Ashley. She had a limitless conference out in New Mexico. She was on the show earlier today.
Do you notice his smile is a little bit more smilier? Hey, Van Eric, how are you? You notice how he's just shining here? The women. See, you talk about us, but we bring such a glow to your lives.
You really do.
You can't live with us or live without us, but we're good for Ashley.
Yeah, she had a great conference out there, and to see God work, in church they were saying how God takes away and then he replaces even better.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that. No, I don't kind of feel that. I believe that in all aspects of my life, the relationships with my children,
right,
the relationships with their mothers, the relationships now that I have even with the people that come around me.
Right.
He takes things out and he replaces them even better.
Well, I tell you what, I've been on the end of him taking out and closing doors and being in the wilderness, but I'm excited about today because I have a feeling like last week.
Last week we had a great guest
Kimberly
by the name
really
of
ministered
Kimberly
to
Maxey.
me. She really did that. How
what a
your
big
life
heart.
goes through transitions and ups and downs, but in the midst you can find yourself.
Yeah, because she had a big heart. Her brother, having scoliosis and being raised in a wheelchair.
Right.
She was an amazing person. At 19, her parents passing away and her taking over as the parental figure.
Having to go through all of that. She had her own challenges, That's what I love about this show. I know you do too. I mean, you really get to know the people. I come in and I meet with them when they're here because I just love to go off, inspirational, let the Lord take over. But you do such a wonderful thing. You go out and you have coffee with people and you meet them and you go to their events.
Well, I think they minister to me. It allows me to be a
awesome.
part of it, a part of their story.
Right.
Just like you, when you start engaging with them and conversating with them, you get captivated in their story.
You do.
And it is an inspiration. It reminds me every week the work that God has done and continues to do.
That's right, and we're grateful.
Yeah, I'm speaking at Beacon Hill, Beacon for Him Church today, which is one of the guests that was here that has a great ministry for the homeless. And
was that lady, like a couple of...
yes.
Her and her husband, right?
Yes.
And they have their church.
And they have their church, and they started a CR.
That's right.
But it kind of keeps reminding me, and it keeps bringing me back to the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me to be of service.
That's all what it's all about.
Because I want to get caught up in my own world and do my own thing and forget everybody else. But at the end of the day, we need to love one another. We need to support and affirm one another. And that's what today's show is going to be about, because we have a great guest for you today, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't wait for it. I can't wait.
Raul, he's one of the directors for the blood drive donation at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and he has an amazing story that you're not going to want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned. We're going to come right back.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
On LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
A reality show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
Exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Chef D Nice of Catering by D Nice, and I'm inviting you to join us each and every Sunday at 2 p.m. for the Veterans Day live radio show. Join us as we provide info that will help all military personnel, so don't forget to tune in to Veterans Day Live every Sunday at 2 p.m. exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio. Or just watch and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Raul Williams, and I would like to invite you to join GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes under R&B or watch us live on Ustream TV. We are reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio on LATalkLive.com. We're more than just talk. We're heaven's party.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show. I'm joined here by author of Shaped by the Master's Hands, Lolita Robinson.
Very good to be here.
And our in-studio guest, Raul Gonzalez. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yay.
No, thank you for
I'm
being here.
excited being here.
You are one of the directors for the Blood Donation Center here of Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. That's an amazing thing to be a part of.
Yes, I am. I've been at Children's Hospital Los Angeles for going on 10 years, for 9 years, going on 10, and I love my job. I love my job with all my heart. It's amazing.
Well, I always like to let our audience and viewers know how we met. We met through an event that I was doing there for Chris LeVar, who was hosting a celebrity blood drive, and the publicist was Rachel Mendez, who became a good friend now since then, and wanted to introduce me to you and said, you got to have this guy on your show. Mm-hmm. The minute I spoke to you, you had such a peace and such a humble spirit.
And such a joyful smile, too. Really.
And then hearing your story, you were appropriate for the show, so I want to thank you for coming on.
You're welcome, and I think I feel the same way as when I met you, and I know what you represent and who you are as a person and what your show stands for. I said, I got to be on the show.
That is
so God works in mysterious ways.
He really does. He just, I do a lot of these events, and sometimes they're celebrity events, and I think, man, what am I doing here? This is not what I do. And then God just introduces me to the one person there that has an amazing story, the one Christian there that says, I just believe in God and I have something bigger than just being on this red carpet.
Right.
It's
Giving
so
back,
interesting.
They give back.
They give back quite a
Right.
bit selflessly. And you're one of those people. So I want to kind of let the audience and viewers get to know you a little bit. Now, you grew up here in Los Angeles. Tell us.
I grew up in Hacienda Heights. I'm a father of 4, grandfather of 3.
Wow. You're
2 amazing twins and 1 amazing boy. And my son's also having a baby in a couple months. So I'll be a grandfather to 4.
Oh, my goodness. You
Wow.
look too young.
I have an amazing kids that I love so much, and amazing wife. I just got married in December.
Oh, congratulations. So you're really newlywed.
I have a stepdaughter. So this is just, God has worked in amazing ways. Grew up in Hacienda Heights. I grew up, my parents were immigrants. My dad, I'm getting a little choked up here. My dad worked all his life to, come down here. He was an immigrant.
Okay.
He did everything he could. 45 years he worked at the same company. Never complained a day, and I lost him December 7th of just last year, and my best friend, the most amazing man, hardworking man, and my inspiration.
Did he meet your wife? Did he get?
He got to meet my wife.
Yeah. So
he got to meet her, and the one thing he said was, told him on Thanksgiving Day, Dad, I'm gonna marry this woman, and we have planned to get married in June, July of this year, and unfortunately with everything that happened, we kind of said this is what we want, this is where we're gonna go, and but yeah, he said the one thing, my mom was in Mexico when he passed away, on visiting her mother and taking care of her mother. That's my grandmother that still lives. And he says, do not get married till your mom gets home. She'll kill you.
Okay, so he gave you good advice.
He was an amazing man. He is an amazing man.
I know. You know, I love that. That's what I tell people when people pass on. They've gone ahead of us. But he is an amazing man.
He is an amazing man.
Well, let's talk about brothers or sisters.
I have 4 brothers that are amazing. My brothers, my brother Brian, Mario, and Tita, we call them. 3 brothers, me is 4. And yeah, we right now we just try to be with my mom and try to do everything. My dad taught us how to be hardworking men, how to do for ourselves. And one of the things that I pride on was being a hard worker, but how I got led into this, what I do now, was by God. God just spoke to me and said, this is where you're going to be at. I was a construction worker.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think, especially with the comments that Donald Trump made, and we had another celebrity guest come on and talk about him being a Latino and being Mexican in the movie industry, and how he would get the roles of the actors who have accents. And we come here with a work ethic. I think a lot of us here, I look at my father the same way. His work ethic was, we work hard, we don't complain, we buckle down, and we support for the family.
I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering why you kept reiterating that you're hard workers, but that's instilled in our really culture, and being that's what's been put out there lately.
And we're tough. I mean, one thing that I was laughing at right now as you're saying that is Joel. He came in limping. He got up and almost fell, and I said, "Hey, aren't you gonna go to the doctor's?" We don't go to doctors. Okay, we just suck it up.
And suck it up and do what you have to do. Right on.
And my father is, even till this day, is the same way. He gets sick, he's like, I can't take a day off work. Right. I'll worry about it later. And we have that work ethic, and sometimes it's to our detriment, but at the same time, it is something that's instilled in our culture to provide for the family.
That's right.
To provide for the family, no matter what. If we have to take 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and even the mothers of Mexican families, our moms are so strong, sometimes even stronger than the husbands and the men.
Well, I did know. I have to say, I noticed when I was a single mother, but my husband was around, but we weren't together. But I did always notice when I would go to the supermarket, laundromat, it didn't matter where I was, it was always the husband was there. You know, I don't know how I'm not saying that all your relationships work perfectly, but I did notice it's always family oriented, and I always took that into heart. You know, so I'm glad we're sharing about this on this.
My daughter's 17. She has a new baby, so I'm a grandfather. Lolita is her name. My son. I went and, with my broken leg, got in the car after teaching my sessions. Went, picked up my daughter an hour away, brought her back, took her to the swimming pool, made dinner for them, and then drove them back, and then drove to an event I had. And I see myself, man, what am I doing? I'm running myself ragged. But just to spend that little time with my children, with the family, it's priceless.
Very well said.
Leg or no leg.
There you go.
So we're going to go back to your story.
Where's in the lineup, too? Where's you? Youngest, oldest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Yeah.
Wow, you got a lot of responsibility.
I'm the oldest, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I did want to mention, were you a church-going family? You know,
I was raised Catholic.
Same
I was
here.
Raised Catholic. My mother would take us every Sunday, and I can remember her pulling my ear when I was falling asleep. And I about 3 years ago, I became a Christian, and but
do you want to explain that to our audience, that you were Catholic but now you're a Christian? How would you explain that to? Because we have people that are.
It's because we're raised in like, our parents are Catholic parents, and I just believe in God in general, and I believe that He opens the doors for a lot of us, and He puts us in situations that just make us better people. And I think me being a Christian was just that I was introduced one time to I went to Lake Avenue here in Pasadena, and then
I know where that is.
Yeah,
it's a big church.
Then I went to Oasis and
oh yeah,
and Faith, and I was introduced, and I was just like, wow, I love the message that the pastor was giving. I love how every time I stood in church, I felt electrified. I came out and it was like my drug. And I don't go to church as much as I should be going, and there's always that excuse, like we always make excuses, right? But I'm a believer, and I thank God for allowing me to continue to do what I do. And every day I wake up, I pray that I'm alive, that my mother's alive, my family's alive, and that I'm able to work for God.
That's right. Amen. Well said.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about your growing up stages, get a background for you. I always recommend to our guests, and I always tell you guys, the more transparent you are, the more you'll relate. If people speak off a pulpit and off the top and how perfect, we never connect, because nobody is. But when we talk about our transparencies and our challenges and our struggles, we tend to connect with one another. So if you're out there listening and viewing, know that this is a real show. We talk about real issues, real challenges, and real struggles, and how we get through them by loving and supporting one another.
There you go.
So I was going to ask you, did you face any struggles or challenges growing up, especially out here in Los Angeles, the melting pot?
I was very I grew up in Baldwin Park as a young, where it was gang infested. My mom and father, like I said, we worked really hard, moved us out to Hacienda Heights, a little better area. But then I found out that we're in Hacienda Heights, everybody thought like my dad and mom. Everybody from all the other neighborhoods moved in, and we were there. And I think the biggest
family oriented.
But I think the biggest challenge was that I had my first kid at the age of 17.
Okay.
I had one right after that. I had one right after that, and one after that. So I was a father. I grew up really quick. I was out of my house at 17.
Wouldn't you say?
Lost my childhood.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, enjoy your childhood. Be a kid. Be out there and do what you do. And now I'm a grandfather, and
that's why you look young. Okay, because I wasn't just saying that. I'm like, okay, well, you told it so.
And I was gonna relate to that, because having met my girlfriend at 17, she was 10 years my senior, and then having a kid a month right after, or getting pregnant a month right after that, I wanted to grow up fast. I thought I was very responsible. I had my own studio at the time. I thought, this is gonna work out just perfect. But you're right, you lose your childhood.
You do.
And you don't have the tools to take on this big challenge of raising a child. And sometimes I feel a little guilty or shameful for that, for what's happened to my daughter, or any struggle she faces because of my youth.
Right.
Because I was too young.
Did you quit school? Were you able to go to school? You had to work?
I had to work. Yeah. Junior year out of high school, I dropped out, started working with my father, lived on my own. I struggled and did what I had to do. I mean, we're keeping it real, right? I sold drugs. I did what I had to do to be able to take care of my kids. I was involved in the wrong path, and I changed my life. I mean, I think a lot of that, what I mentioned now, I keep on the hush-hush because of what I do and who I am as a person, but I think this is a show that you got to be transparent.
Well, and it helps other people who are where you were to see that, my goodness, where you were, if I can be where you are, that's what this is all about.
And I think that's what really brings a lot of hope and inspiration. When people talk about those challenges, those struggles, those are the most appropriate.
Yeah.
I remember teaching on stage, and I remember teaching class and telling everybody, you need to listen to I had a class of about 30, 40 little kids. They were about 3 to 5 year olds. We used to call them little dragons. And I would be teaching there and telling them how they need to listen to their parents, how they need to obey, and all this. And then nighttime would come, and I'd go and party, wouldn't come home too much. So I was living that double life. But through that struggle, through that challenge and everything that happened after, like you said, you learn to then be appreciative. You learn then to give back. If I didn't go through that, I do not think I'd be doing what I'm doing now.
You're sitting here for a reason and saying what you're saying for a reason.
Yeah, and I think the challenge that I went through and just worked my way up and you were doing construction too, right? I was working for the city of Whittier, and I was there as a temp working there, and that's what I was doing.
Well, first let's talk about, how did you get into the construction industry, first of all?
I was working for my father at his company for $10 an hour, and
so he had his own company.
He was a foreman at a company.
That's pretty cool.
He was there for 43 years. He slaved his whole life there for this company, and I was working for him, and I said, I got to do more for my kids. I cannot be making $10 an hour. I got 2 kids, gonna have 3. So I started looking in the newspaper, found this ad that was actually paying the same, but I said to myself, if I get that opportunity to come in and work as a temp. I'm going to prove to the boss that I could work construction, because that's what my father taught me. I could work, and I'm going to get this job full time, and I'm going to make money, and I'm going to get my house, my car, my kids. That's all I thought about.
So that was construction also, but it was with another.
Right. I was working for a company.
Okay.
And then I seen this ad.
Okay.
For construction as a tree trimmer for the city of Whittier. And
okay.
I applied and got hired as a temp and
worked your way up.
Worked my way up.
There you go. There you go. So you're talking about hard work. You're talking about all kinds of things in terms of enduring, but you were there for your kids.
Love my kids.
Okay, you can really see it. You can really see it. You know what?
They live a little far now. They live a little far, and I work, and I don't see them as much as I want to see them, but it's...
How old is your youngest?
My youngest is 17, a football player.
Oh, wow. Wow. And how old is the oldest?
She's 24.
Oh, gosh.
You got to think, I got 4. I'm like going down the road.
You know what? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Congratulations.
Well, through all these challenges, you would think that you started working, you get your job, you're on, at least from the outside, it looks like you're on the right path, but then something tragic happens. You apply for this position that seems like a good position for you, and God intervened. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah.
You went to go. You went applied for this job, got the job, but you had to go through some hoops. Let's talk about that.
After a year at the city of Whittier working as a construction worker, there was an opportunity to be a full-time. My foreman said, "Look, I'm going to give you the job. I'm offering the job. All you got to do is pass the drug test," which I had no problems, no worries about that. Pass the drug test, pass the physical. Well, I had taken a physical when I got hired as a temp, so I didn't see a deal with this. So I went, did the blood work, did everything I had to do. 3 days later, I was at the job site, and
were you tree trimming then?
I was tree trimming.
Okay.
Yeah, I was already tree trimming, and 3 days
Good
later,
money?
No, it wasn't good money. It was
But
like $11 an hour, but I was getting. I was gonna make that big move. I was gonna start getting a lot of money.
Okay.
Once I accepted this job and I passed this regular, I was excited because I knew that for once in my life I was gonna be able to provide for my kids, and I was gonna be able to make great money and being a city worker. Wow.
Yeah, that's something. Once you're in, yeah.
When I got the call from the doctor to come in, the first thing I walked in, I said, "I'm sorry, I was supposed to get the TB shot. The TB that you get." I go, "I know I was supposed to come in yesterday, but I got caught up at work." And he said, "It's more than that." He goes, "Come in the room." I went in the room and he says, "Mr. Gonzalez, your white cells are extremely high." I says, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, I don't know." I says, "What does it mean?" And he says, "Well, it means that you could have an infection, which is what I hope, or you could have cancer." I said, "No, you could have leukemia." I'm like, "Leukemia?" And, me
Had you had any symptoms?
Always tired, but you expect that from having 4 kids.
Right. And then doing the work you were doing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So my lunch consisted of trying to sleep every minute I got. So with that said, I said, "Well, what's leukemia?" I mean, I would hear about it and I would see the kids on TV and I felt bad, but I never donated blood. I never joined the bone marrow registry. I never volunteered. I never helped anybody. I was that person that just thought about myself, my kids, my family. Hispanics are very family oriented. We stay in our same circle. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to get home. I'm going to call my mom right now. As soon as I get out, she's going to give me a little bit of Vicks, some 7-Up, and I'm cured.
That's what
I see my wife laughing over there.
She's beautiful too, you guys. I'm going to get to that story eventually.
We will. So he says, tomorrow at 7 in the morning, you're going to go. You're going to do a bone biopsy where they're going to take marrow out of your pelvic bone. I went into the doctors. I was like, okay, this is serious. I mean, who does that? So I went into the doctors the next day. They took marrow out of my pelvic bone, which is one of the largest bones in our body.
Is it painful?
It's not. It's uncomfortable. Yes, it's painful.
Okay.
It hurts because I was awake and my feet were hitting the joint like that, and blood was squirting everywhere. It was a little graphic.
So you went through a lot. No, this is important to know. Graphic,
but the most important thing was the results would come back in a week, and for that week, I don't think I could sleep. Just knowing. So finding the doctor, they don't tell you over the phone. They call you in. So I went back in.
You have to wait. I remember I had a biopsy on my breast. Luckily, it wasn't anything but the waiting period.
Right. It's the anticipation of not knowing and thinking, God, what's going to happen with my job? What's going to happen with my kids? What's going to happen with me? I'm not knowing. So I remember the first thing that when I went into the appointment 7 days later, I remember sitting down and the doctor says, I got good news and I got bad news.
Okay.
What's the bad news, doc? Well, the bad news is you got leukemia.
Okay.
Well, what's the good news? you got 4 years to live.
Oh, geez.
I put my head down and I cried. But as I cried of joy. And you're probably thinking, what's so joyous about getting cancer? And I cried because I was glad that it wasn't my children. It wasn't my father, my mother, my brothers. It was me. And at that point, I put my head down and I cried and I cried. And you know, they're doctors consulting me. Everybody's trying to make me feel better. And all I could think of is, they don't even know why I'm crying. I'm crying because I'm happy. Because it's me. Because if somebody's got to go, it's me. But then I started reflecting on my life, and I started thinking of, if I die tomorrow, what are my kids going to say? What have I done that I could make a difference in my kids' lives, that they could say, well, my father was the man that did this. I couldn't think of anything that I'd done to help anybody else. So I said, God, if you give me a second chance at life, I will dedicate myself to helping patients, helping people that are struggling with cancer and going through anything I could help them to be better, and to give them the one thing that education can buy, which is hope. And I put my head down and I cried and I said, God, please. I mean, I remember in my younger days getting drunk and coming home and, God, please get me through this hangover and I'll never, ever drink again. And there we go again. And I'm glad to say it's been 16 years and I kept my promise. I every single day I have a patient I work with.
Man.
So I want my kids and I want my family and you know, my wife that's here at the studio with us to know that I'm the type of person that I took and I ran with. I made something that was negative, turned into something positive. I relied on God. I banked on God to give me that chance, and I banked on where now, you know, I got to a point where I remember my kids were saying, you know, I got to a point where it went from one extreme to not helping people to always being at events, always being at cancer events, walkathons, radiothons, leukemia, lymphoma society, everything you could think of, getting way too involved where my kids were like, Dad, slow down.
Yeah. But nobody, you know what, the thing is so, none of us could really do that because we don't know. See, you know what it feels like to be diagnosed. You know what it's like to go through all the work. You're not even telling us what you went through, the treatments. That had to be grueling. Did you have to have chemo? Or?
I had chemo, full body radiation. I mean, it was tough. I mean, the hardest thing is that the doctors tell you, first of all, after I was done crying, I wiped my eyes and everything, the doctor says, okay, well, what's the next step? We're going to put you on a drug called interferon, where you take a shot in your stomach every day so the leukemia doesn't spread. Number one. Number two is we're going to put you on the bone marrow registry. Do you have any brothers? Yes, I have 3 brothers. Same father, same mother? Yes. Okay, we're going to test them. There's a 30% chance one of your brothers is going to be a match. Well, I have 3 brothers. That's 90%, right? None of my brothers were a match.
Oh, no.
Man.
None of my brothers were a match. So now I'm back to square
And your mom
0.
and dad?
And let's talk.
Mom and dad can't.
The
only
mother,
siblings.
Only siblings can do it. Oh.
Well, let's talk about what the doctor said, because the doctor actually told you have a better chance of winning the lottery than finding a match because of your ethnic background.
Right. So
Really?
after my brothers,
Why?
after my brothers were in a match, he said, okay, well, now we're going to go into the registry. The bad thing is that minorities, there's right now, as of the last time I checked, there was at the time when I was a patient, there was 7.5 million on the registry that joined the bone marrow registry to say, I want to help somebody else. And out of those 7.5 million, 6% were African Americans, 7% were Hispanics, 3%, I'm going backwards, 3% were Asian Pacific Islanders, and then 2% multi-race, but 75% or 70% were Caucasians.
Who help out?
Who help out. The Caucasian community is they're very giving. They're always joining. They sign up for everything. I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. They sign up for everything.
They do.
Well, it's interesting because earlier we were joking around how Mexicans, we don't go to the doctor.
No.
Right.
But look at what happened. Now you needing a bone marrow transplant.
We got to do better.
Yeah.
So
now,
too,
7%.
7%. So I started thinking, you know, God, what you giving me this?
Is that giving platelets?
No,
is that what that means? Because I had a friend, Julius, who I love and miss a lot. He used to go and get platelets, and I know that's painful. What is platelets?
Platelets is part of the blood. The blood's made up of different components.
Okay.
Red cells, white cells, platelets, and plasma. They take platelets out. They give it to the children, like in my case, in the hospital where I work at, Children's Hospital Los Angeles. They give the platelets to the children that are going through surgery, chemotherapy. It stops. The way I explain it's like a puzzle. You hold the puzzle up, it breaks, it falls apart. But if you glue the back of it, it stays together. The platelets is the glue.
Okay.
So that's platelets. In my case, it was a little different.
All the time, and it was very painful. So now bone marrow is different.
It was different, right? And like I said, I was to the point where I just wanted to educate the minorities, but I needed help. So I started volunteering. I was like, use me, anywhere I could get heard. I wanted to be on because I wanted to educate the minorities. Hey, don't be like me. Get on the registry. Donate blood. Make a difference because tomorrow it could be your child.
Well, let's talk about what leukemia is, because leukemia is a cancer of the blood.
Cancer of the blood.
I'm glad you asked that because I was going to ask that too.
Cancer of the blood back.
That was a death sentence back in the day.
Back
when you had leukemia, you was
1999.
gone, man.
Yeah, they gave me 4 years, and he said, they tell you the worst. The doctors tell you the worst.
You got a caller. I think this might be.
Okay, we're going to take a caller right now.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, how are you? This is Joel Ramirez. Welcome to Join My House. You're joining us here with Lolita Robinson and Raul. Do you have a question for our caller?
It's Bob Macker, St. Louis.
Bob Macker.
I donated bone marrow to Raul.
Saved my life. He's the reason why I'm here today, and we were getting to that point. And
we were getting to that?
We were getting right into how I found the match.
First, I got to ask you, what made you want to donate or put yourself on the registry for bone marrow transplant?
Well, it was an easy way to help somebody, I got to admit. I was just watching the news, actually, Channel 5 News here in St. Louis, and they had Heart of America was looking for a match for somebody locally. And I went in and I gave like 7 vials of blood, I think, or something. And it wasn't too long after that, I had a match, and then I didn't. They decided not to do it, and I don't know if that was Raul or not. And shortly thereafter, they said, "Hey, man, we have it. Are you still interested? We're ready to go with this." And I said, "Sure." And really, it was out of my hands. The doctors did all the work. I just kind of showed up.
But suiting up and
it worked out really well.
But suiting up and showing up is the first step, and if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be having this show here with Raul. So I want to thank you for your commitment to wanting to help somebody.
And
oh man,
what
did he do?
One of the short stories that I want to share was they don't let you meet your donor till after 2 years of being in remission. So after 2 years, I was able to meet him, and I was already working for the National Marrow Donor Program, and they wanted to do a big fundraiser where all the TV stations would come. So it was a secret meeting. They flew Bob out.
Oh, and you didn't know?
No, but I knew I was going to meet my donor. But remember what I said about more than likely you're going to match someone from your own ethnicity.
Right.
So at the tables, at this big gala in City of Commerce, everybody had a name. And I was going through the names, and I was looking for, where's Garcia? Where's Gonzalez? I was looking for a Mexican name, right? Right? And so when they said, "Okay, Raul, come up to stage. Are you ready to meet? Who saved your life?" I'm like, "I'm ready." They said, "Bob Macker." I said, "The heck? I ain't a Mexican." and oh my God, he came up, and instead of telling him thank you, the first thing I could say to him was, "Why? Why did you help me? You don't even know me."
Wow.
That just naturally came out of my mouth. And he looked at me and he said, "Because if it was my daughter or my son, my kids or my son, I would want you to do the same for them." And oh man, I started crying and we're good. He's been down here a few times, and we have a rivalry because he's from St. Louis, so he's a Cardinal fan. I'm a Dodger fan. So
there you go.
We're always, but we're good friends. And I remember that day he was here. I want to just share this really quick. When he was here on this trip, Mexican moms, they make this mean old
dinner,
spread.
right?
Okay. Well, she made tamales the next day. After he came with his wife, beautiful wife Linda. Stayed over. They came over to the house, my mom's house, and made tamales. And I remember up to this day, it's the funniest story ever. He's biting into the tamal, and St. Louis, they don't got tamales. So he's biting into the husk, and he's like, "Hey, I know this sounds silly, but how do you eat this?" and I just remember,
the wrapping.
But it's the same thing. The hospitality. It's, oh my God, their family is amazing. When I went to St. Louis,
they took care of you.
Oh my God, they had barbecue for me, the best barbecue ever, and I remember they're like, "Hey, we got Coronas for you too." And I mean, it's funny because being Hispanics now, I mean, back then when I used to drink, and back then when I used to, I never liked meatloaf, and I started like meatloaf. I started like Bud Light, And
thanks to your wife, Bob. Thanks to your wife.
Thanks. Yeah. So I mean, and Bob and I are amazing friends. I had him down here for another fundraiser that I did a few years ago, and
Bob, God bless you.
he saved my life. Bob, and I thank you for calling, and go Dodgers.
Bob, thank you for calling.
Pittsburgh just beat up on us last night, so I'm worried about them right now. Hey, when I met him on stage, I gave him 4 Rams jerseys.
4 Rams. We're St. Louis Rams jerseys.
Took the Rams from you.
I think I burned them.
Yeah, and now I think you're getting them back.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's right. We're getting them back.
Is Bob,
Bob,
is he still on on the list? Just one question. Is he still on that bone marrow list?
Bob is.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am.
Oh,
yep,
wow.
Sure am.
And
I just want to say, excuse me, there's nothing like helping somebody out.
Well, Bob, it's because of you that you saved a life, and
really.
And thank you for your commitment to that. Thank you for your commitment, because even at the end, you could have opted out when they asked you, "Are you ready?" You still had an opportunity to opt out, and you didn't. So this was a godsend. You were meant to be.
Yeah, and it worked out really well. And these kids have a father,
and they have a new uncle too. Obviously, your Uncle Bob.
Uncle Bob.
Okay. Hey.
Well, Bob.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for calling.
I just want to say hi to Raul and thank you for having him on. And I encourage everybody to donate because it's an awesome feeling.
Amen.
Really
thank
is.
you, Bob. God bless.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Bob.
Bob.
God bless you. Wow.
What a story.
Okay, if someone is donating bone marrow, what procedure is that for them?
Well, they got to get swabbed first, and they got to be on there, and the chances of you being in call are slim.
But it's from your blood, then.
Well, no, they take it from the marrow. You're asleep. You don't feel it. Doesn't hurt because you're asleep.
Right.
But now with all the technology nowadays,
now they can do anything.
They take it from the blood, like platelets, like you mentioned platelets, except for it's a 4-hour procedure, and it's amazing. But with technology nowadays, I'm hoping that one day people that are suffering from any type of cancer don't need to worry about finding a bone marrow, because technology is so advanced now that kids at the hospital where I work, I mean, they're getting their treatments. They go in, they get diagnosed, they get their treatments, they get the chemo, the radiation. They come back for another treatment. 3 treatments, 3 different cycles, and they're at home like nothing, and they're back to their normal life.
That's amazing.
Just remember that a lot of this, for a
How's
lot
it
of
going
us.
with the minorities? Because Julius is Chinese, that's why I mentioned him.
Yeah, it's
I'm proud of him. So, how many minorities are doing it now?
I haven't kept up with. I think we're at 10.5 now.
Oh.
But I think the minorities, they just went up a little. I think it's a couple. We're still down. We still got to get more people involved, because I think one of the things is that a lot of us think leukemia doesn't happen to me. It happens to that person.
Right.
It doesn't happen to me. I'm Superman.
Right.
And boy, I mean, what a eye opener.
Right.
But being diagnosed was the best thing for me.
Yeah, you said that I can see it now. It changed your whole life, obviously. But I think he's going to get back to what happened when you were diagnosed.
We're actually going to take a quick commercial break,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to talk more to Raul and about how he's giving back now to Children's Hospital
and
of Los
how he
Angeles.
met his wife, and how he met his wife.
And how he met his wife.
Yeah,
When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned. We're going to come right back.
Hi, this is Araceli inviting you to join us every Sunday at 2 p.m. for Veterans Day Live. Join us as we provide info that will help all military personnel, so don't forget to tune in to Veterans Day Live every Sunday at 2 p.m., exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Raul Williams, and I would like to invite you to join GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes under R&B, or watch watch us live on Ustream TV. We are reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio on LATalkLive.com. We're more than just talk. We're heaven's party here on earth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who shares it.
I'm joined here by my co-host and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
Wow.
And our in-studio guest, Raul. Welcome back to the show.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, before we left, we had the blood donor who donated the bone marrow call in. How does that make you feel?
I got the chills every time I think of this guy.
Well,
if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here.
No,
yeah, what an amazing...
When I had lost everything.
Okay, you were, yes, because when
I
you
think
got
you were-
diagnosed, right?
You were getting into that. You got diagnosed, and it must have been a tremendous time.
Well, the city, they reneged their job. They said, it wasn't in their best interest to actually hire me because of going to be out. They didn't know what was going to happen, and it's really expensive. They call me the $1 million man because it costs $1 million to actually go through the bone marrow transplant. I did have insurance, so I was blessed. Very thankful for that, and I lost everything. I mean, I lost my job. I know what I was gonna do. I worried about my kids. I worried about everything that was going on in my life, and it's like I hit rock bottom, and somehow, some way.
Were you drinking at that time, or because was that way behind in the past?
I think I was drinking still. I think I was.
Okay.
I was here and there, but I think I had already got my transplant, and
So you were coming out of that stage and really getting closer to God, obviously.
I was trying to be a better man and get close and do something. I wanted just to use my story to help, and I really didn't care if I died. I think I wanted to live for my kids, but I wanted to leave something behind that was able to say, hey. My father helped other people. He stood for something.
Right.
So part of that was, if I had 4 years to live, I was willing to give 4 years of sharing my story with, especially the minorities.
That's
And
what you're saying.
I was going into East Los Angeles. I was going to anywhere. I was doing all these shows with La Opinión, Univision. I was trying to get on every show I could, and I was marketing myself. Not so much for me, but
for the cause.
For the cause, to say, hey, let's make a difference.
Well, what would you say to somebody out there who's listening and viewing and doesn't know how to go about being a donor? What would you say to them? How would they go about it?
Well, one of the ways they could go for it is always call me. I'm at Children's Hospital, Raul Gonzalez. You can look me up. That's one of the ways that if you ever need any type of support or any type of help or how to join the register or how to donate blood, always look me up, and I'm sure we'll put my information up somewhere. That's one way. The other way is you always Google it. Merrill.org, how to join the registry, because reality is, the honest truth is that this is real. This is real, and having grandkids, kids, a family, this could still happen to someone, and
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that everybody's on the registry.
And they always talking about making a deposit in heaven. Jesus always talks about, don't put your treasures here on earth where moths can steal and crooks can whatever. But you are really doing a deposit for heaven's sake when you, like Bob did for you. So it's the rest of us giving back, even though we may not ever get leukemia, but to help someone else.
I think what makes a person is not what you could get or what you could give. You guys being out here and doing your show, that's a way of giving, whether you guys like it or not. This is your calling from God to be out here, and you're putting people that are making differences. You guys are like the bridge, and that's how I always like to be the bridge behind the. When I met Joao, it wasn't my show. It was Chris LeVar's show. It just happened to be that I was, with Rachel, and again, Rachel, just an amazing woman, and Chris, an amazing person that put this amazing story. But I was behind the scenes.
You see how that is? So now, how did you meet?
No,
Is that what
I
you're
guess
gonna
that's
say?
right. No, but that's where we're going. Well,
She's sitting.
because we talk about this on the show. God put us on this planet for relationships, and me being single for such a long time, it was a struggle being in that desert, being alone. And now God is putting these amazing people and teaching me that He will give me my heart's desire as long as I'm faithful to Him. And He did that for you, because you met your wife. Tell us how you met her.
Now,
that was a point.
You think he's grinning before? He's really grinning.
So about 3 years ago, I started going to Oasis Church, where I started serving. I started serving, and I was.
How were
you mentioned CR. You mentioned.
That's right.
I know all about it. So.